I share an experience I had on November 23, 1998 that forever changed my life. It doesn't matter if you believe my experience. What matters is that you check out what God has to say about hell and avoid it just the same. I'm Bill Weiss, and this is my beautiful wife, Annette. In our book, 23 Questions About Hell, in this presentation, we provide answers to some of the difficult questions most have regarding life, death, and eternity. Some have the erroneous idea that God is mean for making hell. However, that would be like saying the leaders of our country are mean for constructing prisons. No, you don't have to go there. God gave man a free will to choose. Some say God is unloving for not allowing a good person into heaven. However, would I be justified in saying you were unloving for not allowing me to move into your house? No, unloving has nothing to do with it. You don't know me. It's the same with God. We must have a relationship with Him in order to live at His house. We confront these issues and give clear and concise answers from the Word of God and not our opinions. Think about the following questions for a moment. First, if there is no God, then there would be no consequences for our actions. Would that be fair? If there is no hell, there would be no justice ever served, especially for the Hitlers of the world. Would that be just? If there is a heaven, then are we simply entitled to go to this perfect place? Are we really good enough if our actions, thoughts, and even our motives are examined? In reading our book and viewing this DVD, we share enough information to enable you to make an informed decision. We hope you take this seriously, as there is nothing more valuable than your own soul. The question you'll be faced with is, where will I spend eternity?
It's interesting. If most of us go on a vacation, we check out the sites, the hotels, the restaurants, we do some investigation. But yet most people do no investigation on where they're going to go after they die. They put a great deal of effort into a short holiday and no effort into eternity. Why is that? I believe it's because most people tend to believe whatever they're raised with and not question it. But not questioning something, you can remain ignorant or uninformed, and you could be on the wrong path. The wisest man that ever lived was King Solomon, except for Jesus. And he said in Proverbs 14:12, "There is a way that seems right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death." So if you're here tonight and you're not familiar with the Bible and you don't call yourself a Christian, we're here to share with you some information that will enable you to make an informed decision. So we just ask that you simply remain open and listen. Mark Twain even said, we're all ignorant and just about different things. And another wise man in our world today is Dr. Chuck Missler, a Bible teacher. And he said, the only sure barrier to truth is to assume you already have it. So if you can remain open. And this is not a message of condemnation. This is simply a message of warning. You know, what loving parent wouldn't warn their child not to play in a busy street? 11 years ago, November 23rd, 1998, this experience happened. And when it first occurred, I didn't really want to share it with anyone. I'm a conservative person by nature, and to be identified with something seemingly as wild as saying, you've been to hell, was very uncomfortable for me. I shared it with one close friend 2 weeks later and my parents. Well, the close friend asked us to come to their Bible study and share it. Well, 3 months later I went, reluctantly, and shared it. Well, we began getting invited to different Bible studies, and then churches, and then some television and radio. So it started spreading. For the next 7 years, my wife and I would take her 2 days off a week and her vacation time, and we would travel around the country wherever we were invited. And we did this for 7 years. We paid our own way everywhere, and we never took one dime from anybody during that time. This was prior to the book coming out. And then about 4.5 years ago, the publisher came to us and they asked us to write the book. So it was not something we wanted to self-promote. But I was happy to do the book because I really wanted to put in there the Word of God. So we have over 150 verses in our first book and 250 verses in our second book that tell you everything I saw is already in the Bible. And so if you're here tonight and you say, Bill, I don't know if I believe you, well, I'm not here to convince you to believe me or to espouse to my experience. What I'm here to do is to convince you to believe the Word of God. You might ask, Bill, how do you know this wasn't just a bad dream? Well, 3 reasons, but just to give you one quickly. On the way back from this experience, I had viewed my body lying on the floor. This was not a near-death experience. This was an out-of-body experience that comes under the classification of a vision in the Bible. You remember in 2 Corinthians 12:1 and 2, when Paul was caught up into heaven in a vision. He said whether in the body or out of the body, he didn't know. Well, the Lord just happened to show me that I left my body. So that's how I know it wasn't just a bad dream. On the way back, I was traveling back with the Lord, which I will tell you about. But 1 John 4:18 says, perfect love casts out fear. So I had no fear whatsoever being with the Lord. But when he left and I came back into my body, the memories and thoughts of hell flooded back into my mind. And I immediately started screaming, and my body, I felt, was dying. You cannot even live in this body with the memories of hell. It is that severe. You will literally die of fright. And I started screaming, and I went into a traumatized state, and my screams woke up my wife. So I wanted her to share with you how she found me.
Certainly. This happened November 1998, and we went to bed. It was a Sunday night. We had a prayer meeting, and we went to sleep. It was about 11:30. And I woke to screams coming from our living room. And the first thing I did is I looked at our digital clock, which read 3:23. Now, Bill had gotten up in the middle of the night. It was 3 a.m., and that's where the 23 minutes in hell comes from. And I proceeded down the hallway, and I found my husband in a state that I have never, ever seen him in. Anyone who knows Bill knows he is calm, conservative. He has a very peaceful nature. To find him in this state was really shocking. And he began to scream and cry out, pray for me, the Lord has taken me to hell. And I know it sounds strange, but when he said that, I actually felt a peace inside because I knew he wasn't having a heart attack or physically dying. And I began to pray for him. And the Lord very, very graciously took away the horror and the fear from his mind, but left the memory of what had happened so he could share his story. Give him hell, honey.
Thanks,